Good morning. It's good to see everybody in person again. The last 2 weeks we've had snow days, huh? It's been fun. I had fun. I hope nobody lost electricity. I know that isn't fun, but it was a beautiful sight to see, and I'm really happy to see smiling faces back in our sanctuary. We always start, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Reverend Lisa Herklotz. I'm the co-minister here at Unity of Charlotte, along with my husband, Reverend Jim, who will be giving the message today. And we just want to say welcome to you. If you're here in person, if you're joining us on Zoom, we're welcome to you too. We're glad to have you joining us. Yes, good. Alan's given me the sign. We've got a few people online, so thank you. We're glad you're here. Or you might be watching this later in our YouTube channel, and if that's the case, thanks for checking in. We hope to hear from you soon. We always begin our service by saying our announcement, our mission statement out loud, because the mission statement is our purpose for being here. So please join me in our mission. Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve, indeed. We'd like to see if there's anybody visiting us here for the first time. If you just gently raise your hand so we can give you a warm welcome. Nice to have you here. You'll actually be hearing from some of these folks in a bit. If you are here for the first time, you might be on Zoom for the first time. If you'd like to get more information about Unity, put your information into the chat and we'll be sure to email you that information. And we have a beautiful little visitors packet for you. There's many ways to find out about what's going on at Unity. We have a presence, we have a website online. You can sign up for our weekly newsletter on that off that website. We are on Facebook, Bluesky, Instagram, and our YouTube channel has all of our past Sunday services and also some great little clips and reels that our social media person does for us. So if you just need a little hit of inspiration that's no longer than a couple of minutes, those are a great resource. And of course we have our bulletin board right outside the door, which is in the process of getting updated. So we don't have everything listed, but that's always a good place to stop by and check and see what else we have going on, not only within Unity of Charlotte, but also outside of our community. So let's now turn to prayer and begin with our opening prayer. I invite you to gently close your eyes. Take this moment to notice your breath moving in and out, and let it center you deeply within, that place where we commune with our Creator, with our Spirit, with our divine inner Christ. From this place, we call forth and claim the awakening of peace in every mind. We call forth and claim the awakening of love and wisdom in every heart. As we look out on our world and the challenges that we are facing, the darkness and the seeming lack of love and connection, we know that we must be that which brings that forth, to awaken it in all. We are so grateful to know that we have but one source and one power, and that is God, and that is good. And that is our truth. That is our ultimate truth and the ultimate reality. And it is through this goodness that divine order will ultimately triumph. Love is always stronger. Unity is our natural way of being. And in the face of anything that seems to deny that, we stand strong and declare the truth that God is, I am, and love reigns. in the joyous knowledge of our true connection, our wholeness, and our oneness. I claim this to be so, and so it is. Amen. If you'd like to keep your eyes closed for another moment, we'll take some time for silent prayer as we open the space for you to speak aloud a name of someone you would like to uplift in prayer. Please speak those names now. Mom, world leaders, unity. For every name that has been spoken aloud or is held quietly in our hearts, we now affirm Spirit is already present, working in and through whatever situation it is to bring about the best and highest good for all. And so it is. Please join me in our unity prayer of oneness. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good, omnipotence. We claim and affirm this presence and our lives as love. We also want you to know that we accept prayer requests. We have a prayer box right outside the door. If you would like to leave a prayer request for yourself or for anyone else, please feel free to do so. Those prayers go to our prayer team where they're held in the strictest of confidence. They are prayed over for 30 days. And in 30 days, we send those prayer requests to our Silent Unity prayer team, which is our global organization, where they're prayed on for another 30 days. There's great power in prayer. And it's absolutely something that we are called to do today and every day, in whatever form it comes to you that is genuine. But if you have anyone you want to hold in prayer and you want some prayer support, please use the prayer request. We also have a way to put a prayer request form in online. So you can always go to our website or use our newsletter, click on the link, and put a prayer request in. I'm now like to call up Fred, who's going to be reading our daily word.
Determination. My determination takes me far. In every person's life, there will be times of ease and times of struggle. In the tougher times, it's natural to feel discouraged and tempted to give up on plans and dreams. When discouragement sets in, I remember I am fully human and fully divine, a spiritual being endowed with many gifts. I fortify myself by invoking my innate qualities of strength and power. They give me the determination to keep going, to stay the course. I can use my body and mind to accomplish what I set out to do, but I also know that there is more to me than that. The attributes of God are mine to use. Again, the attributes of God are mine to use. Together, the attributes of mine are mine to use. I believe in myself and I move forward with determination. In Thessalonians, it says, so deeply do we care for you that we are determined to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves, because we have become very dear to us. You have become very dear to us. Thank you.
We're going to talk, my name is Reverend Jim Ernstsen. We're going to talk about Mary today. Not that Mary, the other Mary. You know who I'm talking about? Mary of Magdala. Mary of Magdala. I want us to look at this story a little bit differently and get more accurate about what we think of when we talk about this Mary as well. And you can see from my title, and if you saw it on the newsletter, we talk about when the early church got it wrong. Because In 591 in the Common Era, Pope Gregory I got it wrong. Let's just admit it. He got it wrong because he tells us, Pope Gregory, that Mary of Magdala was a penitent prostitute that was subservient to the 12 disciples. And that we're going to learn that that's not really what happened. He got a little, I'm not going to even guess what happened 1,500 years ago, but he got it wrong. At the same time, I did a little research on some of the artwork over the years of how Mary was portrayed, Mary of Magdala was portrayed. And here's one of the art pieces, one of the more famous ones. Here's another one. Here's a third one. And I want you to notice blonde hair. Really? Blonde hair, very fair skin, suggestive posture. And for me, it just screams out marginalized. I don't know about anybody else. So we're going to move beyond that. We're going to move beyond that. And instead, I found some artwork from an artist, Anna Otero. Now look at that face. Look at that posture. Look at those eyes. First of all, dark hair, a darker complexion. It seems like she fits in to that first century Palestine back there. But there is a look on her face. Don't mess with me, is what it looks like to me, right? Don't mess with me. Or at least a confidence. And we're going to talk about some of that confidence with Mary as well. So just because I enjoy a little fun, we're going to play Unity Jeopardy this morning. And the answer is Mary. But what is the question? Remember, form it in a question, just like you would Jeopardy. Any ideas? Okay, no ideas. What is the most common name for a woman in Palestine? The answer was Mary. Absolutely. So Mary was a very common name, which is why they had to separate her from all the other Marys, not only in the New Testament, but that was walking around in Palestine in that first century. What's the most common male name of that time? James. So we got that covered, don't we? We got any Marys in the crowd? Mary, there you are. I knew we had one. So we have, and your middle name is Mary? Awesome. We've got, sorry? I'm a Mary. You're a Mary too. See, very common name. Very common name as well. So what we want to talk about is, and we're going to see Mary's face through that painting that I've chosen this week throughout these slides. But I want us to look at her and realize her strength, that she is devoted, the confidence that she shows us. She is actually a leader in the early church, and I want us to see and hear that as we move forward. Within the New Testament, she successfully moved from pain into wholeness. Within Unity, we like to talk about that as a transformation. This is her transforming what she was given in her world and where it ended up spiritually. This is her story of transformation. It was, in fact, a healing. It was a healing. What do we think happened to her 2,000 years ago? Go ahead and shout it out. What happened to Mary of Magdala? Pardon me? Victimized. She was victimized, absolutely. What did Jesus help her with? She awoke, yes, absolutely. That's the end product. She was supposedly, what do you call it when you have demons? She was possessed at one point. And Jesus got rid of, I can't think of the word, exorcised 7 demons from her. Now, within Unity, we don't necessarily believe that they were actually demons possessing her at the time, but she was having issues. Something was going on. And the transformation in her life was because of what Jesus helped her with. That was the healing that happened. Lately, we also think of Mary, and I love that picture. We think of Mary as well as the apostle to the apostles. And we're going to talk about what that means, the apostle to the apostles. Within Unity, we're shifting where she was, and she became that confident leader of that time. The leader, in fact, I believe, the leader of those 12 disciples. There was an awakening with her at that time. Something went wrong in her life. She turned it around. There was a healing, and she actually became the apostle of the apostles of that time. She now exemplifies also, and this is the third part we're going to talk about, is her resting in sacredness. You'll see from the title of that painting, Mary Magdalene, as Shabbat of the soul. Anybody know what Shabbat is? Any Jewish scholars out there? Shabbat is resting. Shabbat is resting. The day off. The Sabbath is a good word for that as well. The Shabbat. So this is an attribute that we want to explore today as well. Within Unity, this is finding inner sanctuary. Finding inner sanctuary as well. This is, and you can almost see it within her posture as well, this is that exhale of the soul. The exhale of the soul as well. So metaphysically, because we do want to look at this metaphysically and not just literally within, pardon me, the New Testament, within the Christian scriptures, Mary Magdalene represents the intuitive, the devoted, the courageous aspect of the soul. That's what we're talking about here. The part of us that remains present through both joy and challenge. Because what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Mary, but we're going to move it into our lives as well. What can I learn from all of these lessons that she presented back then as well? So we're going to look at the metaphysical message as well. So underneath her painting right there, the city itself, that's not her last name. Magdala is not her last name, right? It is what? It's where she's from. It's the name of the city, Magdala. Magdala was a fishing town. It was a village. It was small. I saw pictures of it online. It was pretty small. But it was a successful city. It was a fishing town. It did a lot of trading as well. If we look up Magdala, and this is what we also do, within Unity we have the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, and places mean something to us, and how we apply those into our learning and into our lives. Magdala represents that lifted up in the power of consciousness. Whatever situation you're in, lifting it up, not of this world, but lifting it up in our consciousness. You see the difference there? Lifting it up into our consciousness as well. So Magdala is on the western, if you have a map in your head, and I didn't put it on the slides, it's on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. And at that time was a successful fishing town. This is something that we're looking for in terms of our inner landscape and that power of consciousness. So today when we ask, who is Mary Magdalene, Mary of Magdala, My tongue is all twisted up. We will practice it afterwards with a cup of coffee. I want to, so she's gonna stay with us throughout these slides just because I love that face. I want to explore the story through three perspectives that we're going to talk about today. This is holding a light up to her story and what we can learn and apply in our lives as well. What we want to do is we want to talk about that transformation into wholeness. She exemplified transformation. She also became the apostle to the apostles and that resting in the sacred. So those are the things that we're going to talk about with her today. In terms of that transformation into wholeness, Luke's gospel tells us that Jesus healed Mary of 7 demons. Now, within Unity, really, I think what we're talking about here, and this is my interpretation of that metaphysics, it's moving from pain into wholeness. This is the transformation. She was in pain back there. She was in pain. Whatever was going on, for someone to say that she had demons in her soul, she must have been in a whole lot of pain. But it was that miracle that moved her into wholeness that Jesus helped her with. Not the removal of something bad, but the revelation of something true in her life. Jesus showed her the revelation of something positive and true in her life, and she was able to let go of that pain. That's what we're talking about in terms of that transformation itself as well. Mary and Jesus it was a miracle at that time when something happened in her soul, something cracked, she was wounded, she was scattered at that time. She was transformed by love. And it really changed her life. It really changed her life. Her story tells us that spiritual authority does not come from having an unblemished history, because she didn't. It's beyond that. It comes from having been made whole once again. So that gives me a whole lot of comfort, because there are times in my life where I stumble and I fall, and I need the help from somebody to transform and for my life to become better once again. That's the miracle that we're talking about. We don't have to wait. We can do that ourselves. That encounter with unconditional love that Mary and Jesus came together with as well. Myrtle Fillmore, thank you. One more time, yes, co-founder. See, I could not do this in front of a camera. I need you guys to help. Thank you. Myrtle Fillmore taught that healing occurs when we agree with life, when we stop identifying with our limitations and begin aligning with divine vitality. Wow. Healing occurs when we stop identifying with limitation. How many times do we think that? Wow, if only I had, fill in the blank, right? That's my limitation. Instead, it's identifying, it's aligning with our divine nature. That is the answer to it. Let go of that limitation. And Mary shows us that. She embodies that shift from where she was at to this new place that she now embodies. Back in Palestine, back in those, she moves from her torment into freedom and strength. And don't we want to be there? We want to be there in that place of freedom and strength. Mary becomes strong, devoted, and grateful at that time as well. The second thing we're going to talk about is the apostle to the apostles. What does that mean? What does that apostle to the apostles mean? After, and a lot of people know this story, that after the crucifixion, the disciples were kind of scattered a bit, kind of regrouped. Some of them were hiding, actually. In the New Testament, in the Christian scripture, it tells us that they were hiding behind locked doors. Their world had collapsed at that time. They were afraid. They withdrew as well. Their hope felt shattered at that time. But not Mary, right? Not Mary. Mary does not hide. She actually, after a certain amount of time, goes out to the tomb. Now, of course, she was in grief. Her teacher, her rabbi at the time, had just died and was buried. She was going through grief, but moved into an openness at that time where the resurrection was revealed to her. It was revealed to her. She was not hiding at all. She goes to the tomb not to fix anything, not to explain anything, but simply because love drew her there. And it was there in that space of grief and openness that the resurrection was revealed. Mary becomes what the early church leaders call the apostle to the apostles. She carried the message of this to the other disciples, right? She carried the message that Jesus was resurrected to the others. She was told to do this and moved. And within Unity, we think of this as an awakening, as the awakening for her. She was that apostle to the apostles. Now, an apostle is not somebody with rank necessarily. It wasn't bestowed on her. In fact, the Greek word for that is simply one who is sent. One who is sent. Because Jesus is, and we learn in Acts that the apostles are being sent out into the world to teach the message of all of Jesus' teachings, right? But it was Mary who got them organized. It was Mary who started this whole thing. It was her. She was the apostle. She kicked them in the butt and said, come on, stop hiding. We got to get out there. This is good stuff. We got to share this. That's Mary. And I'm so glad that she did as well. She carried that message out to the world with the other disciples. This awakening of consciousness at that time as well. Metaphysically, it was her that remained calm during that time, and she was the steady one when all the other disciples were kind of running around, hiding, wondering what we're going to do at the time. In Unity language, this idea of resurrection is the awakening of consciousness to our eternal life. It's an awakening. It's our awakening. Your awakening and your awakening to eternal life. That's the lesson here. Not so much of what happened to Jesus, but that's the example, but that we can move into this state of calm and steady as well. We can become transformed. We can become transformed. Metaphysically, it represents that faculty within us where we can remain calm and steady as I live in the peace and love of God. We can use that as our affirmation, if you might. I live in the peace and love of God during this time. One of the daily words in the past is this. I don't have a date for this, but I live in the peace and love of God. This right thinking illumines my thoughts and prevails over disharmony. First of all, I love the peace and love of God. We believe within the unity movement that God is peace and love. And then we were created in that image. We are peace and love as well as all the other pieces and attributes of God. But that's another story. So that we are peace and love. And it's through our right thinking. Do we see what that is? It's through the way that we approach things that happen to us. Are we going to allow that transformation to happen by the way that we think? That's what we believe in within the unity movement. By the way that we think. Right thinking illumines my thoughts and prevails over any of the disharmony that we bump into, who's the musician that does Crash? Who did that? Who? Dave Matthews. Dave Matthews sings about crash. Well, that's us in our lives. We crash into disharmony. And then we move beyond that. We transform into that. Thank you for that answer.
He said it first. I just said it louder.
Okay, thank you. So, Dave Matthews, yeah. And now I forget where I'm at. Let's just move on. Music, yes. The third thing we want to talk about today is resting into the sacred. That is what Mary taught us. Magdala is that fishing village of that first century CE. But metaphysically, it can represent something deeper to us. It's that space of spiritual refuge. Space. So again, this is something that we're learning from Mary, right? We talked about transformation. We talked about this part is about us resting in the assurance of who we truly are at any given moment. This is, again, that spiritual rest. This is knowing our oneness. And when I'm really in that place, after I've crashed into that worldliness and allowed the realization that I have a refuge in the spiritual, this is where I come to know my oneness with, and here's where you get to fill in the blank, your oneness with God, your oneness with the universe, your oneness with the Christ nature. It's what speaks to you. But it is that knowing, and that's the key word there. It's that knowing that we are not separate like we may have thought we were. And that's my crash moment, is when I think I'm separated and all by myself, and the knowing of my oneness with not only you and the rest of the world, but with God, with the divine presence. My term is divine spirit. You can use whatever you want. That's where I know who I am. That's where I know who I am. Mary metaphysically understood this. She represents that resting place, that inner sanctuary where striving ceases. Look at that face. Striving ceased for her. And instead, she was in communion with her truth and power and confidence. Don't you think? And we can as well. We can as well. Unity teaches that we can enter into that peace of Shabbat. We can rest. Because we do live in a cycle where we work really hard during our days. We present ourselves into this world the best we can. But then there's times where we need to rest. And that's what this is as well. Charles Fillmore reminds us, the other co-founder, that when the mind becomes quiet and receptive, spiritual perception awakens naturally. Truth rises when we stop pushing and start listening. He's talking about moving within. He's talking about your prayer practice. He's talking about meditation. Truth rises when we stop pushing and start listening. When was the last time you listened? You moved into the quiet. You heard that spirit. You felt that oneness. That's what he's talking about. The peace of Shabbat. The peace of Shabbat. This is not reached through effort, is what he's saying, but this is coming into alignment with our truth. Mary is often portrayed as devoted, attentive, and present in the life of Jesus and the disciples. And all those things are true, but that was not the limitation of her, that devotion. She stays near Jesus not because she was clingy. Look at that face. That is not the face of clingy. But because she found rest in the knowing of who she was. She found rest in the sacred. She knows, perhaps maybe even without words, where her soul can exhale and simply be. That's the face I'm looking at right there. Myrtle Fillmore again. There is a sacred, secret place within me where only I can go. And in that silence, I become aware of the endless peace where no time or space, where there is no time or space here. I am refreshed and renewed. I am refreshed and renewed. That's what we're talking about. Mary of Magdala. And I'm going to practice that because I keep fumbling over that name. We talked about these three things, that inner compass that knows transformation is possible, even when we're in the depths of that crash as well. We also talked about her as the apostle to the apostles, that confident voice that speaks beyond fear, that can find peace in any moment. And then we talked about that place within us that rests in the knowing of our oneness with the divine. We've talked about those three things. That inner compass, unity, we talk about, it is not only possible, but it is a certainty. That transformation is a certainty. In terms of being the apostle within unity, we talk about that openness and that ability to easily find answers if we ask, if we move into silence, if we listen. And that peace and that rest within unity, we talk about that sacred rest that comes from our inner, power. And we don't deny that. We don't shrink away from that. Marianne Williamson talks about it doesn't serve us to shrink away from that power. And that is the truth of our being. I'd like us to move into a time of meditation at this point. I invite you to move around, make yourself comfortable, to breathe, to find your voice. See you later, girls. And what we mean by that is noticing the breath. Where is that breath most easily felt within your body? So that you can focus on that. For me, it's at my nostrils, but it could be at your chest, could be at your belly that moves in and out. Wherever it is for you, watch that and know that. This watching gives us a chance to move from that thinking part of our brain and travel down that road, those few inches down into our heart space. It calms the mind. It opens our heart. And sometimes we need to come back to our breath over and over again. That is the practice of meditation. Today you'll be listening to my voice as well as we guide our way through the lessons of Mary. Mary Magdalene. And we ask ourselves, where is my Magdalene? My inner place. Where can I find that peace? Even when I bump into, even when I crash into that fear. I give myself permission to move those pieces of my life from fear and worry. I give myself permission to move and make them whole again. I do not need to stay in that anxiety. I can find that place of sacredness. I continue to breathe. I feel. I know that transformation is not only possible, it is certain. Feel that inhale and exhale. And like Mary, we discover that the soul at rest becomes that soul that leads us to our next truth, our next realization, our next aha moment. As we take a moment or two in silence. And as we begin to come out of this silence, we claim that transformation as our birthright. We were created with that possibility, with that certainty. We cannot be contained by those imaginary boundaries. We breathe, we let it out, and when it feels right, we open our eyes, come back into this room. Namaste.
Thank you, Mary Magdalene, Mary of Magdala. This is the time in our service when we have our offertory. It's the time when we celebrate the law of circulation, of giving and receiving, that we know is a universal law. We want you to know how grateful we are for every gift that you bring to Unity of Charlotte, in whatever form you bring it. It is all received gratefully, and it is what allows us to express our light in our community. So I'd like to invite you, in whatever way you give, There's many ways to become a consistent giver. That's what that slide is about. But whatever form you are giving in, and in a moment you'll see the QR codes if you want to use those during our offertory time. But right now, hold in your hand either the gift you have present or the one you have given or are giving, and say together with me our abundance blessing. Joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Where our light, love, power, and presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.